Well, hello guys, and welcome to this live stream. Hope you're all doing well. Joining me today is Tom Peters. How are you doing, mate?
Not too bad, buddy. Not too bad yourself.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. So the idea today is just to discuss the black mist filters, how we use them, and what we use them for. Um, a little bit of a backstory about the black mist filters. I got the idea to use them for landscape photography rather than videography from Mark Denny. So shout out to him for the inspiration. I saw some images he posted using a black mist filter in the redwoods, and it just had this lovely sort of ethereal feel to the image, more cinematic feel. So I thought, might be interesting to try that in UK woodland. So we both got sent some out to try, and yeah, we've been playing around with them for a few months, haven't we, mate?
Yeah. I mine's a very similar building up to you actually testing them. But I did for steels, but I have had a variable ND, black mist ND,
Yeah,
which for a while now, probably a year, which I've used for just keeping my shutter speed at 50th of a second for my videos,
yeah,
and that's got a black mist built into it, and I really like the way that it makes my YouTube videos look.
yeah,
You know what it's like trying to stand out, or just not stand out as such, but trying to make things look more unique or
yeah,
different to
different.
everybody else.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then I too seen that video with Mark, and I just thought, yeah, why not use them for steels?
yeah, yeah.
And here we are now.
Yeah, because you were using it back on the first trip we did to Italy, weren't you? You were using it then.
Yeah, that was probably
Yeah.
I probably had them for about 3 months before that, so I've had them for maybe
Mm.
15 months. I've been using it for, and I never really looked back, if I'm honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just gives that sort of like you said, glow or a little bit of pop to the highlights,
yeah,
mainly.
yeah. It definitely looks
That's
good for video, eh?
yeah, it does, because you know what it's like. I'm a bit of a clean freak with my video, as I try to be with my. It's obviously harder when you're videoing. You know, you can't avoid getting skies and things
Yeah,
in. It's easy for me because I mainly do woodlands. A bit different for you if you're out and
yeah,
about.
yeah,
But yeah, if you can minimize that to get that to a minimum, but you are still going to have a chance of having some skies and that in the woods. The
yeah,
black mist just sort of it diffuses everything, doesn't it? Nicely.
yeah. It does definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Uh,
it gives that sort of glow that comes down, obviously, from the light source, which and it like illuminates the sides of tree, any sort of ambient light.
yeah, it just gives a lovely sort of glow to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just want to pull us up a little minute because Paul Cunningham's just joined us. Evening, mate. You okay?
How you doing, buddy? All right?
Yeah, nice to see you on here. Just before we go any further, what we're going to do is we're running a competition tonight for your chance to basically win one of the black mist filters. And the question is, if I can remember how this thing works,
Here we go.
basically, what scenarios would you see yourself using these filters for? So we're talking about woodland and everything else, but if you've got any other ideas how you would use these filters, then put your comment down in the description below or in the comments in the chat here, and we'll pick out a winner at the end of the live stream. So yeah, so what scenarios would you see yourself using these filters for?
Yeah, that really opens it up to everyone as well, doesn't it? Because
It does, yeah, yeah,
like we was talking earlier, weren't we? I know like we said, we touched on woodland, but you said about portrait photography, in a studio and with sort of controllable lighting conditions, that would be quite good.
yeah, yeah.
So I can see it for like minimal seascape stuff or seascapes in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
just
is
or even
funny
like
because
this.
Darren J. Spoonley just joined us and said evening, gents, as well. And
Hi,
he's
buddy.
also said at the sea, of course. So yeah,
Yeah,
seascape. Yeah,
yeah. I would imagine they'd be very good at the sea. Yeah. Even like if like a minimal seascape, where you're trying to make something look, or slightly different.
Yeah,
or it depends on what your style is, obviously. But I like them sort of minimal shots. Sometimes you can't really tell what they are, or
yeah.
I'm sure that would give it a nice glow.
Well, that's the thing, because a few people have said, well, it's a bit like an Orton effect, and to some sort of degree, it really is. It gives that sort of soft feel to an image, but it does other things as well. And what we'll do
Yeah,
is, when we move on to the images, we'll kind of explain what it actually does in your image. It's not just got that ethereal feel; it does do other things to the highlights and things like that as well. So we'll cover that as we move through.
yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely one of those filters that's worth experimenting with, I think. I mean, as you do more woodland photography than I do, every now and then I'll go and do a bit of woodland photography. It's not my main thing though. But first thing that came to mind when I saw the filters, it would work really well, because with my woodland shots, I do like to add a tiny bit of like an Orton effect, really.
yeah.
I mean, a subtle amount. I don't like plaster it on.
No,
But yeah, it's I like that sort of fantasy look, but like
yeah,
not overly done, but it's just got a hint of it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, yeah. I must admit, I tend to use the Orton effect technique when I'm editing a lot.
Mm.
I wouldn't say every image, but most of them I would say. And if the ones that I feel like it needs it, I'll probably add it in globally.
Yeah,
Not globally. In areas that I would like. Not globally, just in partial areas possibly, with a luminosity mask or something, just in the highlights. But you can, like I said earlier, you can achieve that with these as well, because obviously when you use this filter, it is baked into that raw file, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And
So,
that's one of the things that you really have to kind of bear in mind. Whereas if you were doing this in post, you've got the ability to adjust the level of that effect. And I
yeah,
think what you really have to think about with these type of filters, or any filters really, is once you use them, that's it baked into the file. So if you
yeah,
don't like what that filter's doing for you, you're stuck with it, unless
yeah.
what you do is make sure when you're out there, you take an image with the filter and an image without the filter, and then you can blend it in post as to how much you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would totally agree. I just think that's good practice anyway, no
Yeah,
matter what filters you're using. Like when you shoot, I'm sure you do when you're shooting your waterfalls, when you're using NDs.
yeah,
I'm sure you take base shots with no filters, a polarizer, and then all your NDs and a polarizer.
yeah,
So if you're in that mindset of this is what your routine is, and it's not exactly a hindrance to your routine anyway. It's what I would normally do anyway. So
yeah, exactly,
yeah, that's a
exactly.
good tip actually. If he was worried about it being obviously it is irreversible, you can get around that by just blending bits in, can't you?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, I just want to cover a couple of the comments. Hugh Alban said, "Evening, gents," and he also says, "How does the filter impact backlit trees, etc.?" Well, stick with us, Hugh, because we'll get to that when we bring some of these example images up and we'll kind of explain what's happening. Yeah, so basically, that was the intention tonight. We want to kind of show you what actually happens with the effect of this filter, what it does for your woodland shots, and not only that it works for woodland shots, which was my sort of main idea with it. Obviously, portraits, as we've already said, video work. There's lots of different things I think it would work really, really well with.
Yeah, I vouch for video work. I must admit, I don't think I would, unless the light levels are really low. But I use a variable ND, so it's slightly different. If you're using a straight mist, that won't be a problem. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think I would. I don't think I would vlog now without having it on. If I'm
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. Well, I actually fitted an extra filter adapter to my vlogging camera, so I could pop those on and off every now and then.
Yeah, they are. They're well worth doing. Yeah,
And
definitely.
Hugh Alban also said, "I'd be interested to see how the black mist impacts ICM type images or anything where I've moved the camera deliberately during the exposure." Yeah, probably interesting results with that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was getting down with the minimal. abstract. And that's obviously taking it a step further.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I can definitely see potential with that that way of going. Yeah, for sure.
Adrian also says I'd use them for some intimate woodland shots, close up, half macro shots where I don't want a sharp technical shot.
Yeah, a macro as well. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
When you're shooting from underneath the mushroom and you've got that harsh sky coming down, shining through, would be amazing for that. Backlit leaves.
Yeah. Even to the point where like a mushroom shot like that, you could, as we said before, you could kind of blend. So you could almost take the effect off the mushroom and leave it around the subject where you would have out of focus areas.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you got them out of focus like bokeh areas, it's gonna definitely help, I would say.
Yeah, and Darren says, how much contrast does the filter reduce the scene by on average? It takes quite a lot of contrast out, doesn't it? And that's
it does.
You'll see on a couple of these shots, that's kind of the point really for especially woodland photography, because sometimes a lot of the time you'll see a woodland photography scene where they have reduced the contrast in post quite a bit to get that sort of more artistic look about the image.
Yeah.
Whereas this kind of filter already does it for you.
Yeah. I do that. That's my main. Ever since really bumped into that Australian bloke that we knock about with.
What do you call him?
I don't know. I can't remember his name. It will come to me. And
Matt Bishop,
Matt Bishop, that's it.
He's big on contrast and stuff like that. So he kind of
he's got a lot to answer for when it comes to that. And that's kind of the process I do. Is I will really reduce the contrast middle ground backwards quite significantly anyway.
Yeah.
To create that sort of layered sort of journey. Or, you want the eye to go in and around and then move back. And again, this filter is quite fun to work with because, like you said, Paul, it does that anyway.
Yeah.
So I tend to, instead of having a real contrasty image and reduce it, I tend to sort of introduce more contrast and leave the background as it is.
Yeah.
So it sort of forces me to work backwards.
But it kind of
quite nice.
Gives you a nice depth that way, though, eh?
Yeah, I've kind of already got the background and midground that I want. I've only got to bring in the foreground or introduce contrast where I want the eye to go initially. Yeah. Whereas the other way around, you're doing it sort of backwards.
So Tony Mesner says, "Evening, guys. Evening, Tony. Nice for you to join us, mate.
All right. Thank you for joining.
Just in case anybody who's joined hasn't seen the question to win one of these filters, it's basically, what scenario would you see yourself using these filters for? We're putting the scenario of woodland photography forward, but there's many others we could see them used for. So what scenario would you see yourself using the filters for? And if you leave your comments below for a chance to win, we'll have a look at them at the end and pick a winner from them.
Yes. How do you feel about nightscapes, cityscapes? How do you think?
Not doing nightscapes, I'm not sure, but I would imagine that it's going to do the same for light that it does for the highlights. So city lights, it's going to give that blooming effect, which might actually work quite nice.
Yeah, or like even kind of what thinking like street photography.
Yeah,
like a night. If you had like a nightscape with a dark alleyway with a street lamp that was hidden around a corner, maybe, and it would help certainly to bleed light. So there's scope there as well.
So what I think we'll do is I'll pull an image up. So I'll pull this image of mine up first because I've got an image here that shows you quite clearly what it does without the filter on and then with the filter on, and you'll see actually how much contrast it takes out of the scene because these were basically unprocessed. So I'll just swap us over.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. I've got it to work first time. Look.
Yeah, straight away.
So this image here has nothing applied to it at all, apart from a touch of CPL. Now I took this shot with that's all the only filter I had on the front of the lens at the time is a CPL, and it wasn't on full, it was just on slightly, just to take a bit of the, if I point it out down here, there was quite a lot of harshness on the leaves. So I used the CPL just to take that little bit of glare out.
Yeah.
So this is the scene without a filter altogether. Now, if I come out of this and bring up the image with it, this is the same image with it applied. And you can see how much contrast it takes out of the scene.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now this is, bear in mind, this is a half stop. So it's the strongest one they do.
The strongest one, yeah.
We have to kind of say it's called a half stop, but it's not actually, what we've found is it's not reducing your exposure time anywhere. So I wouldn't actually call it like a half stop of light or anything like that. It's adjusting, it's more a half stop of effect. It's applying.
It's quite a good point to bring up, because that was one of the main questions I've been getting the last few months is, basically does that rule out woodlands in the morning because you're already struggling for shut and eyes? And from what I would agree, from what I've found from using them, I've noticed any anything to do with my shutter speed being increased by using them.
It doesn't seem to affect exposure times whatsoever, because I don't think it's strong enough to do that. It's not like a totally dark filter. I mean, when you hold the filter up, you can't. It's speckled. It's like black and speckled, so it's not got enough to reduce the exposure time by any significant amount. So just bear in mind that those filters are available in a quarter stop. An eighth stop, a quarter stop, and half a stop. And it's more a case of how much of an effect it applies to your image.
And they're all very subtle, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not. I mean, even the half stop, to be honest. I mean, it does. I suppose in bright daylight, it could probably look quite strong. But for what we've been using it for in woodland, it's strong, but it's not that strong, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. We get to a shot I took a few months ago. I was about to say, this is a RAW file, Paul, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a RAW file. So this is basically that's how much contrast it's taken out of the scene.
Yeah. So it's a good indication to see how it deals with contrast. But if you got like a brighter scene, like Paul said, that's when you can really see more so the effect of the actual filter.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll come out of this one now, and we'll pull up one of yours, which I think this one will be good to bring up.
Yeah.
So although you've not got sky in it, you can kind of see.
Yeah, you can see. Doing. Now, I will point out there was a fair bit of mist and atmosphere. This was the thinner part, the tail end of the mist, because I wanted to take an image where the sun was sort of breaking through the mist to sort of help demonstrate or experiment on how it deals with the light, because it does tend to flatten off the scene if you've got more of a duller scene, doesn't it? But if you can introduce a bit of light, like this, like we've got the sun sort of peeking out of frame, obviously, but it's lighting up the bit of mist that was there. And I was kind of using the mist filter as not so much as a mist filter, but to try and make them sort of highlighted mist areas come to the foreground, because they're quite hard to see, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Like definitely. when you're there in person, as you know, when you take a RAW file, you get home, and how many times you get home and you're like, oh, a bit deflated about how they look. And you think, wow, I was a lot more excited when I was there.
And sometimes it works the other way as well, as I was saying on a video the other day there. Sometimes you're looking at the back of the screen, and because the screen isn't that big, you don't actually see the full effect till you get back. So it can work both ways, really.
Yeah, it does. It does work both ways. Yeah, it does. But yeah, you can see what the mist filter is doing to the to the highlighted areas, that sort of glow that you see in person that you don't always come through, and it doesn't always come through in a raw file.
Yeah.
This definitely helps pull that out. So when you open your raw file, there's more of it there. You've got less to pull out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I
know what you mean.
find that my starting point is closer to where my endpoint I want my endpoint to be.
Yeah.
And you can see the speckled highlights as well, which I really struggle with. I'm really anal about
Yeah.
speckled highlights or sky in woodlands. I like my images to be a bit darker than usual.
Yeah.
And this gets rid of some of my anxiety, this filter, because
that's your OCD taking
my
care of.
OCD, yeah, some the speckled highlights, it just softens them. But can you also see as well that the side of the tree and on some of the ferns down in the foreground, that light, it gives that sort of that bleed of light. You can actually see the light hitting that tree.
Yeah, and
It
it's
just
something similar that you do see when you're there in person, isn't it? Because you do sort of see that sort of almost like a bleed or a glow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like when you're there, it isn't. It's obviously a 3-dimensional world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that light, that tree is concaved, and the light is bleeding around, and there isn't this harsh light dark like you get in your shadows and highlights in a raw file, is it? It is.
It's a softer transition, isn't it?
Yeah, and this filter just helps gain that process, gain that sort of feel a lot earlier on in the editing process. I feel anyway, it just makes it more enjoyable to shoot scenes like this. But again, it's not going to work every time. It's not. I'm not saying this is going to be a filter that makes every image look amazing.
Yeah, one size fits all sort of thing. I just
want
to, before we go any further, mate, I just want to catch up with some of these comments because they're
flying, aren't
they?
Crikey.
So basically, Darren saying, good example there, guys, for the contrast. That was on the first one. Cheers, Darren. And Tony's saying, does it change reflections? Not really, does it? It gives a subtle glow to them, but it doesn't really change. It gives a sort of glow to any sort of light that's going on anywhere. It gives that sort of glow too. So I would imagine like a reflection on water, it's going to do a similar thing.
It will soften it, won't it? I would think.
Yeah.
It's going to make it less harsh for sure.
And James Hines says, hello, great discussion. I think they would look great with some lone tree winter scenes with a little bit of fog, maybe to really push the atmospheric feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If it's snow would be awesome with these filters, I think. Yeah, we get a bit of light. You got so much reflective light off the snow as well then.
Yeah, it'd be a good experiment actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it would be great.
And Joy Rig is saying, loving this discussion. Would it work for wedding photography to sort of soften the image and take the brightness off? Yes, it certainly will, because I've seen it used to great effect on portraits. So I would imagine, like you see quite a lot of wedding images with that sort of dreamy look. I think it would work really awesome for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it would. I must admit, if that was your style of wedding photography, how you want your images to look, it would definitely increase your workflow, I reckon, because there's we all know how many hours you've got to spend behind a computer processing all them shots. If you had something that was already, again, like kind of what we spoke about here, if you had something already, a starting point that was 3 steps ahead, it would definitely help, I reckon.
Tony also says, love that image. So there you go. There's a compliment for you, Tom.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you very much.
And Hugh Alban says, so using one of these things in conjunction with ICM could create a more ethereal or ghostly result. If someone was starting out with one of these, which strength would you recommend? I would, if you were starting out, for me personally, I would probably hit the middle ground and go quarter of a stop.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with getting hit in the middle. It's not that strong that you're going to regret it, is it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you probably you wouldn't be disappointed if you got the half stop, to be honest with you. But I think if you were, I think you could probably always sort of increase the effect slightly in post.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably hit the middle ground with it and go quarter of a stop, because it's just in that sort of, it's not weak, but it's not strong. So it's picking the middle ground, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I wish I was into ICM as that was any good at it, because
Yeah,
they would be quite good for that, wouldn't they?
yeah, definitely.
Or like seascapes, if you like abstract seascapes where you're taking pictures of just the waves, maybe,
Yeah,
Again, that would be
anything like
because
that.
you get a lot of reflected light.
Yeah.
Mm.
Dean Allen's just tuned in and says, "Hi guys, does it desaturate the colours? You may have already covered this, as only just tuned in." Dean, mate, I'm gonna put this back up so you get an idea.
Yeah.
So this image is taken without any filters, only just a slight bit of CPL. And if I come out of that one, the same image with a half stop black mist on, you can see how much it desaturates and takes all that sort of harsh color out of the image. Takes the contrast out, basically, doesn't it?
Quite a bit, quite a bit. But you can see like how if you was to increase the contrast, say on that tree around the foreground, how you could quickly create real depth, couldn't you? Quite quickly.
Easily.
Yeah.
Just even just painting contrast back into the tree, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, defo.
So we'll bring another one up. Now, you're going to have to keep me right with these, mate, because I'm not sure which is which. I'm assuming the first one is without filters.
I think it was the next one, the middle one.
It's the middle one, is it?
I think that's the quarter stop.
That's the quarter stop, is it? And you can see what it's doing with the light there. Now it's subtle with the quarter stop. It's not quite as evident.
You can see, like you said, like Paul said, down on the left there, you can see that tree is hit where it's hitting the right.
Just down here.
Obviously, these are all raw files. So these ones are. So you can just see what it looks straight out of camera. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a quarter stop one.
I've just seen something really interesting, actually. Christopher Cherrington's just left us a comment saying, "I'd be interested to see how this would work when photographing stained glass windows from inside of churches."
Yeah. Oh, that's the creativity we like. I never even thought of that again.
Yeah, that's an awesome.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I can imagine that looking down the length of the church from inside at the glass at the end. That would look incredible with the light bleeding over the pews.
Yeah, I think it'll look great.
That'd look sick. Yeah, really
good.
So
you've put that in the comments, so we'll keep that for towards the end of the show as well, because there's a chance to win. Just in case you've tuned in late, there's a chance to win one of these black mist filters for yourself. Basically, all we asked is for you to. Where's my questions gone?
Yeah, basically, we just want to know
what scenarios would you see yourself using these filters for? That's what we're asking.
Yeah.
If you leave those down in the comments, we'll pick a winner at the end of the show. And that's
we know what Christopher's is, don't we?
Yeah, it's an excellent one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find my closest church when we get off of here, I think.
And another one says, "Well, I think a nice woodland snow image would be my idea if we get some this winter." Yeah, it could well work well. So that was Tony M again. So that's his addition. So I'll just move off this image, mate, and we'll go to the next one, which was the middle one. Is that the one?
The middle one, yeah.
Is that the one without? It looks as though it's got slight.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry, maybe that. Yeah, it's hard for me to see because I'm sure that was. Yeah, this is the quarter stop. Sorry, the one before was the flatter one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that looks more like it's got an effect applied. So that looks like quarter stop. It's got like more of an ethereal feel, as you can see.
Ethereal feel, yeah. Sorry, yeah. That is the quarter stop. But again, it's very subtle.
Yeah, I mean it's. I would say it equates to something like a 3% Orton effect added in post, something like that. It's not like too much.
No, and because obviously we've been using them for a while now. I knew when I took this shot, the way I exposed it was more for the highlights. Obviously you've got the big boy Fuji. You could you have no trouble pulling these shadow details out if you want them.
Yeah.
But in terms of me editing, I would probably, well, what I was intending was to really blow up that top area exposure wise, and there's so much atmosphere in there that you just can't really see, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that filter really will just help soften that when you do eventually come to processing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
as we said earlier on, basically, if you take a shot with the filter and a shot without it, you can kind of paint those areas back in where you want them and where you don't want it. So you can kind of almost create yourself a sense of depth by doing that, same as you would by any editing in post. You can basically paint the bits out that you want to bring more attention to.
Yeah.
And effectively add more contrast back to, eh?
Yeah, because that, for me, that's what I try to do with my woodland photography is the contrast, the depth. I almost used his tagline then. The depth of contrast, from foreground to background, for me, has to decrease as it goes further. You go further into the so
because that's what you see. That's how you see.
Because that's what you see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And these filters are just fun to play with that.
Yeah, definitely. James Hines Photo just says, which stop have you found to be the most useful, and have you had a go when there is a lot of rain falling?
Yeah, well, I actually missed the rain in this shot, but that was my intention. James, actually, I have thought of that, and I did think I'm going to go out this particular morning because we had lots of rain forecast, but it blew over quicker during the night, and all I got was just the saturated woods. I was hoping for a bit of rain, but I'm 100% sure that if you shot rain with these filters, it would definitely be an enhanced look.
Yeah,
it'd be a look that I think I would probably like.
Yeah,
because of the way we know how it deals with the ambient light.
Yeah,
and the reflective light off surfaces. If you was to have rain, I think it would really work.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
And again, know what the light looks like when you have wet trees as well, which is what we have here. It's only going to help bleed light around your scene.
So what we'll do is I'm just going to move on to this next image. So I'm assuming this is the half stop.
Yeah, that's the half stop.
Because you can see yeah, you see the contrast reduced again, haven't you?
Yeah. I must say these shots were taken probably half an hour apart, maybe. I was just trying to wait for the light levels to change to see how they affected the scene, as well as I thought maybe a bit more light, and never really got the light coming through that I wanted. As per usual, you never really get exactly what you want, do you?
No, well, this is it. We always complain about something. It's either rubbish light, rubbish weather, or
exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you tend to get, but this scene was sorry, I my mic. This scene was really harsh, actually, a lot harsher here than it looked in the camera. The highlights were they did seem a lot brighter than they are in that image. But it still hasn't blocked up my shadows.
And you see what it does for the highlights. It basically softens the highlights. So it's where I know as woodland photographers, you tend to want to keep the sky out of the scene as much as possible. And when it's not always possible, to be honest, this is a good use case scenario to use these filters, because it's not gonna stop the distraction of highlights, but what it does, it softens them and makes them more manageable, I guess is the way I would describe it. It's not as off-putting to the eye. I don't think it's like a softer look, so your eye's not drawn immediately to that brighter spot, if you know what I mean.
No, definitely not. No, and I must admit, the braver I get with them, the more sky I will increase in images like this.
Yeah,
because there was quite a lot of detail further up in the canopy, but on my brain's programmed to eliminate them risks because I don't want to get home and think, but again, they will help that definitely will help. Even like the likes of us, we're all learning still.
Yeah.
And it's going to definitely help me be a bit more confident with my highlights in moving forward in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right, so we'll come off this one. I just before we go any further, just go back to these questions again because I don't want you to miss out on them. Basically, we were asking what scenarios would you see yourself using these filters for? So any creative use you can think of. If you pop them in the comments section here, Tom and I will pick a winner at the end of the live stream, and you can win a Black Mist filter.
I keep going back to Christopher's the church thing. That's a cracking idea.
It is a really good idea, that one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring up one of mine actually because I've got one without a filter again and one with. But this was taken quite a while back when we first got the filters and everything was still quite green.
Yeah.
So again, raw files. I haven't touched them.
Lovely comp, mate.
Eh?
It's a lovely comp. I like that.
Oh, you like that one, do you? You like that
Yeah.
one? I spent ages wandering around this place trying to find something, and then I was just about to leave, and I found this.
Yeah, I like the way you framed the bottom real nice and heavy with the ferns.
Yeah.
It really stops your eye, doesn't it? Wandering out to the right, and you end up down the end.
Yeah, it kind of holds your attention. That's what I thought. It was kind of hold your attention to the lower section.
Really nice, yeah.
But the reason why I picked it is especially with these filters, I wanted to have a bit of light in. So that's why I kind of picked this scene so I could have a bit of this sort of light coming in from this top right side.
Yeah, to pull you in.
Yeah, just so you can see the effect of the filters more than anything. Just while we're doing this, we've just had more comments come in.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah.
Hugh Alban saying, I think with the ICM, I'm leaning more towards the half stop as the impact is more noticeable. Great discussion, gents. Thanks, Hugh.
Yeah. Cheers, Hugh. Thanks for that.
And
Paul, I do agree, by the way, as well. Sorry, Paul.
Yes, okay, mate. And Paul Cunningham saying definitely would help with the harsh winter sunlight. That's definitely true.
Yeah. We all know how hard it is to shoot in the winter months sometimes. Yeah. Any little help we can get is a bonus.
It is, definitely.
Yeah.
James Hines says, probably well out there, this one, but something I've been meaning to have a go at is moonlit with off-camera lighting, night woodland photography. These filters could do wonders in that scenario. Yeah, you could have a really sort of fantasy-like theme going on there in nighttime in a woodland.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Because obviously, to be honest, it's endless, really, what you could do because they react so well to light. So
yeah,
especially diffused, like reflected light or anything like that as well. So
yeah. It's just about using your creativity. I think with these filters is just once you know how they react to the light, you can kind of apply it to lots of different scenarios, and that's the point.
I'll tell you where they would have been good, Paul. When that shoot in the church, Rockacalacio.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you had similar conditions the second time. We went the first time. We had the light still on, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had that fog rolling in, and that light was lighting the fog up.
Yeah, it was different this time, but I know what you mean. It would have been really nice with that fog and
good for that,
the atmosphere. Christopher Cherrington says, I also do a lot of waterfall photography where specular highlights are a massive enemy. Sounds like these filters would be a great help in this regard. Well, stick with us, Christopher, because I've actually got a waterfall image to show you. And Hugh Alban says, does the lens focal length make any difference to the effect, i.e. if I used in a woodland with a long lens as opposed to a standard 24-70? I haven't noticed anything different.
No, I haven't noticed any difference. No, I find them they're very even. I haven't noticed any difference. No, shooting wider or tighter. I'm like you, Hugh. I tend to shoot a lot further away, tighter, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't noticed any difference.
Or
I haven't noticed them being increased in strength or not. No, pretty even.
And Tim Monaghan says, why would you use such a destructive method rather than just doing this in post-processing? Well, it's For me, Tim,
question.
it's not an effect that can really totally recreated in post-processing, and it reduces the amount of post-processing you have to do. As we said earlier on in the live stream, as with any filters, what we would recommend that you do is you always take a base shot without any filters on it at all, and then take another shot with the filter applied. So that means that in post-processing, you can either paint that in or paint it out, whichever your preference is. You anything to add to that, Tom?
Yeah, it's such a touchy subject, and because photography is so what's the word I'm thinking of? Subjective, isn't it? You know, everyone has their different workflows. Everyone has their different reasons for doing do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
But for me, I do agree with you, Paul. Whether you can replicate it exactly the same, who's ever going to know that for sure? So for me, they just give you that sort of base image to work from, if that's the way you want your shot to work.
Yeah.
So for us to say they're definitely the way to go for every shot, it's a bit unfair. They are what they are, and for me at this time, I like the way that I can start from further down the line, and I just feel it's more of a less forced approach, because I've got less to do, and it just gives me more of a softer base to work from. But yeah, that's obviously just my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. It is subjective at the end of the day. It is personal preference, but all you can go off is once you know how the filters react, then it's just a case of experiment with them to see what different scenarios you can use them for, really.
Yeah, and even the few months that we've had them, I got locations in my head that I know they'll work really well for if I get the conditions I want.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I might not use them that day, you know. So it's a bit of use them when they're at their best, use them for their strength.
Yeah,
in some
for
cases.
sure.
Yeah.
Just want to remind you that we're running a competition to win one of these filters. So just put your answers in the comment section, and we're just asking what scenarios would you see yourself using these filters for. So basically, what I was saying with this image, this is without any filter applied whatsoever, and this is with a quarter stop applied. Now, there's not a huge difference, but what I notice is the contrast massively reduced on this main tree. And also, where I was telling you about the highlights before, all of that area is a lot softer. It's got more of a glow coming down from that top right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can tell instantly, can't you? That's it's quite a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this particular scene, I think that's because there is a lot of diffuse light there that the camera, without any filters, is cutting through. It's really flattening off. Obviously, we know we all know what the raw file does, but you're getting that sort of some of that data back from start one, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. Gavin Hardcastle's just chirped and he says it might work well with selfies.
yeah, it would. Yeah, it depends what you look like, I suppose, Gavin.
We were saying before, actually, it's really good for portraits. It has a really nice effect on portrait photography, if that's your thing. Gots to hide them wrinkles, innit?
That's it, definitely, yeah, that's it.
So basically, Chris Cohen saying I would try those filters on astrophotography to see what it does to the stars and aurora. James Hines photo says with anything like this, it can just bring the joy into photography, give you the opportunity to shoot more in more times of the day, and with different results, and helpful when you're feeling uninspired. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Yeah, if filters do anything for you, if it does that, then it's a win-win anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is it. It doesn't really matter, does it? It's definitely worth it in that case.
Yeah.
Christopher Cherrington says, I'm off to Iceland in a couple of weeks, praying for some good aurora. Would be intrigued to see how these would work under these conditions too.
Yeah, but I would be interested to see what they're like in a situation like that.
And Jack Lodge is just laughing, obviously at Gavin's comment.
Yeah. That's not
So
like him, is it? To bring a bit of
no,
bit of laughter.
right, I'm just going to bring up one of your images again, mate.
Oh well.
Which is this baby.
Mm.
And there you go. So you can see it's doing similar things to those highlights again, eh?
Yeah. I took this. I wanted to use a filter for this, not just to help diffuse the light that was there, but just to show you that it doesn't. You don't get any sort of color cast with them as such.
Mm.
You know, the actual warm and cooler tones that you get are still there. It's not sort of milking them or sort of staining them at all. You know, you can see where the light is and where the cooler tones are still down lower. It's not sort of flattening. You know what I mean? It's not flattening
Yeah.
off that sort of. You're not getting like a warm right through or cool right through.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
It looks lovely.
and the specular highlights in the middle, they were quite bright and distracting for me anyway. But I was quite happy with the way that I could sort of diffuse them and make them not so distracting. I didn't want your eye to go straight down the middle and stare at them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But again, this morning I had mist, a little bit of fog.
Yeah, you can see that in the background there.
Yeah, so I didn't use these again to add mist. It was more for the light and to help soften, to help add to what I already had.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy these thinking that you're gonna, your images are gonna look like an amazing foggy scene, because they're not. They're more. I find they're quite subtle, like we've already talked about. So they're really good for adding to something that you've already got.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got,
enhances the mist, doesn't it? Basically,
yeah, exactly. And if you haven't got any mist at all, they're really good for diffusing light.
Yeah.
So I find them quite good to use for a lot of cases, not just misty scenes.
So Gavin's saying, "Nice comp that, Tom."
Cheers, mate. Appreciate that, buddy.
Hugh Alban is saying, "Is the current case range of these filters compatible to be used with the K9 system?" Looking at the Case website, and I'm not sure. Thanks. I'm not sure. Does the
K9?
Because
they're screw-ons, aren't they?
No, I'm not sure. The K9s, is it not the? Are they screw-in?
Yeah, I thought the K9s were screw-in, and it was the Wolverine ones that were the magnetics.
Well, I guess the way these work anyway is they come with an adapter ring anyway.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So if the K9's screw in, this basically comes with another adapter ring, which is just like that, really narrow, thin thing, and it just screws straight onto your lens, and that acts as the magnetic bit which the filter clips onto. So I don't see you having many issues with it anyway. I'm not sure whether it'll work directly with it. We'd have to double check that, but we can do that for you. Not a problem. If you pop us a message after the event, I can always get that checked out by the guys at Case UK, and they can give me a more definitive answer on that.
Yeah, because the K9 is the K9 holder, isn't it, with the square filters?
Yeah,
and then it has a I believe it has a magnetic CPL.
I'm sure it's got a magnetic CPL, hasn't it?
It has. It's got a magnetic CPL, so I don't see why they shouldn't, as long as you've got the same
size,
size inside. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they should do.
So what was the other thing? Tim Monaghan said, "Good answer," and Chris Cohen says, "I like the soft light descending into the woods in that photo."
Cheers, Chris. Yeah.
The Cracker Shorts says, "This is going to help so much with the damn highlights that are troubling most woods."
Oh yeah, we know all about that. Yeah, it's yeah.
Christopher Cherrington says, "Do the filters reduce sharpness as well as reducing contrast?" I haven't noticed that they massively reduce sharpness. Have you?
No, I haven't.
I mean, they obviously soften the image, so they're obviously taking a bit of it out because that's the nature of them. They're trying to soften your images and giving it more of an ethereal look.
Yeah.
But actual, you know, tack sharpness, I don't think they're actually taking that much out of it.
No, like in a scene like this, again, I sharpen my images kind of like how I work my contrast.
Yeah,
Sharper at the front and it diffuses back, and I'm not really worried about the sharpness to say from them second fork trees back anyway.
yeah,
And I tend to sharpen my images non-globe, not a globe in a global way anyway. I tend to paint
yeah,
sharpness in kind of like I do contrast. So I haven't really noticed any disadvantages to my workflow. I haven't really noticed it at all, if I'm honest.
yeah.
But yeah, you are. It will soften obviously the image, so it'll be a case of just bringing it back wherever you want, wherever you feel like you need it.
Yeah, which is why we were kind of saying at the start there is to make sure that you take two different images so you can kind of paint that
Exactly.
sharpness back in.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Then you've got the best of both worlds. Then.
Yeah, definitely. Right, just before we finish off, we had a question about waterfalls. So I'll bring this image up, and I haven't got a before and an after, but you can see what it does to waterfalls and water in general, and the highlights.
Mm.
And it you can see it just sort of gives more of a dreamy effect, and it kind of gets rid of those specular highlights. I mean, I noticed it more up here because that's obviously you had the light coming right down from above.
Yeah.
So normally there you would have to be really careful with these specular highlights and those highlights blowing out. But with using this filter, it wasn't too much of an issue, and it just softens them so you don't really notice them.
Yeah. It's a real good example of using them in the way I think they should be. They're designed to be used. Is again, I know we banged on about it, but it's not just about the mist aspect of them. It is, there's so many different ways you can apply them.
Yeah.
And like Paul said, diffusing that light at the top there is a real big plus point for them, and something that I do all the time.
Yeah.
Will do all the time with them.
Yeah,
it definitely helps.
I really like the look it gives, especially to water. And this was the first time I'd actually tried it with a waterfall.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an especially bright day, but there was a lot of like ambient light from right above. So it was soft light anyway, but you can see what it does for the water. It just gives it that sort of. I mean, it doesn't take away the texture. That's the thing. There's still plenty of detail and texture left in that water, but it just gives it that sort of glow.
Yeah. As well, where you get that sort of plume of spray, that real fine spray, almost like mist, isn't it?
Yeah.
At a waterfall. It's going to work wonders for that sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like if you were taking shots that were slightly further back.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would capture that sort of that mist. The ones that sort of mist and spray that you get on the front of your filters that are really annoying.
Yeah. The thing is, as well, is that as we were saying before, seascapes could use scenario with it as well, because obviously when you're at the sea and you've got that movement in the water, and you can see what it does for water here, it could give a really nice effect to the water detail.
Yeah, it will. It will definitely. Yeah, like splashing waves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna work. It's gonna work good for things like that.
So I'll just close this image down and we'll go back. Bosh. So thank you very much for everybody for watching this live stream. So we've been asking the question, what would you use scenario would you use this filter for the chance to win? And who do you think has won that? For me, it's the church idea.
For me, Christopher Charrington, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think yeah.
I'm just checking back through the.
As I say, it was about 8:24.
Yeah, Christopher Charrington. Yeah, got it. So Christopher Charrington, you've won it, I think, brother. So
congratulations, mate.
Yeah, if you leave a message or pop us a message after the event, we'll put you in touch with Kase, and they will send you out a filter. That's been fantastic. Well, thanks everybody.
No worries.
For joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got some benefit out of seeing what these filters do. We really enjoy using them. Just before we finish, Cracker Short says, what stop is best for woodlands? I think we were saying either the quarter or the half stop, isn't it, really?
Quarter or the half, I think, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, so I hope you've got something out of this and you've learned all about these filters and how we use them in woodland and other case scenarios you could use them for. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Well done to Christopher Cherrington. Drop us a message, mate, and we'll get this filter out to you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Well done, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.